Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back. Anastasia, Cosmic Astrologer. Very excited to talk about the new moon in Leo, which is just a couple of days away or a few days away. And I pulled a card to see what message was going to come through for all of us, for the collective. And I mean, what a beautiful card, Knight of Swords. Now, I know the reverse, has a different sort of meaning around recklessness and so forth, but it didn't come up reversed. It came straight up like that. So this is going to lead us into everything I'm about to unpack when we look at the chart for the new moon. The Knight of Swords is the one who stands up, who fights, who defends, who protects, who assists other people, who fights for his ideals, who will be confronted by opposition, but he's just got to keep going with what he believes that is important to defend, which is our freedom. So there couldn't have been a more appropriate card actually sort of come through the divine, because I asked for a message straight from the divine. What is the message for this reading that I'm about to give? And here it is. So I thought that was a really inspiring and very synchronistic message for us all. So, okay. New moon in Leo. So yeah, oh God. First of all, we've got this Saturn Uranus in the mix, okay? The square between Saturn Uranus, which is showing up repeatedly through these new and full moons. The Aquarius Leo polarity, okay? So very simply put, the Aquarius Leo polarity at this point in time especially is enabling us to stand in our heart, stand in our truth, stand in our light with the deepest of connection to heart center. And the reason this is so important at this time in our life is because, long story short, over many years, you could say decades, you could say hundreds of years, depends which context you want to look at it in. But essentially what's happened is humanity has moved further and further away from their heart center and has been dominated and influenced by the world of materialism. So this heart center point at the moment, particularly with the Lionsgate opening, not opening, but being at the most pivotal point during the new moon, because as I said in my previous video that I did, which was on the Sun Mercury Cazimi, I spoke about the Lionsgate actually already being activated. And indeed it is. We can see it because basically the intensity and rush of light that's coming through, which is basically our upgrade to 5D. That's what it is. It's all about the ascension and the upgrade. And the level of light that's coming through is so incredibly intense that the opposition to that needs to ramp up their program, their storyline, because there's a battle. And the Knight of Swords, he knows he's in a battle, but he's a fearless warrior. This is about the hero's journey. This is about being the most heroic and courageous that we've ever been asked to step into. We've never been asked to step into such courage as we are right now. And we really need to understand that literally and mentally, psychologically, emotionally, from the point of view of the drama and everything that's going on, we are being asked to stand in our light, in our heart, with this energy. I mean, look at this guy. He's on a horse. He's got his sword, he's got his armor, and he's basically he's just going for it. There's no stopping him. And this is what's happening at the moment on the earth plane, in the 3D plane of things, in 3D reality. There is a war going on. That's just a fact. So the more we can actually stay in our heart center, get back closer to that, because many have lost touch with that because of the level of materialism, the level of this 3D dimension from a Saturnian level, which is all about the external structure, achievement, etc. And everything that's promoted and created from the consumerism perspective is specifically designed to take us further and further away from nature, from natural law, and from our heart center, which is where our truest power resides. So this new moon in Leo is an absolute golden opportunity to absorb, to be a complete vehicle for the absorption of the light that's coming through, because the light that's coming through now is the most intense it's ever been, certainly in our lifetime. There's no two ways about that. We can see it because we can see the opposition and just how intense the opposition is at the moment, and how much that's intensifying day by day, how much that's ramping up, and how much fear is being injected. Mandatory this, mandatory that, fear, fear, fear. If you don't do this, you won't have the privilege and the right to be in this or do that. And that's it is scaring a lot of people, and it is coercing a lot of people. But that, instead of allowing that to scare you, let it actually reassure you and show you that if the amplification of light and the ultimate evolutionary transition that's taking place, if that wasn't in the way that it needs to be, in its truest authenticity and level of power, there wouldn't be such drastic oppositional forces in play trying to block it, stop it, and so forth. So you've just got to be able to see that. You've got to be able to see the logic in that even. So there's a lot going on. Let's so intense. Just so intense. I received so many messages and emails from so many people, and my heart goes out to everyone, really, to everyone. I have close people in my life. I have people that I don't even know that, want to connect with me, want to ask for an opinion or, support or whatever it is. And, I do my best to support that, as much as I can, but I am only one person as well. So there's only so much I can do. And the reason I'm saying that is because we can all do this. We can, and that's what the Knight of Swords, it's actually speaking to supporting and helping others as well, fighting and defending. The Knight of Swords has very much to do with the intellectual intelligence level. So fighting with the intelligence and the ideal and the understanding of what, in this case, the understanding of the truth. To get to the truth, you've got to blow that program out of your perception. You've got to go beyond the boundaries and see the bigger picture. If we don't do that, we're going to be totally overcome and submit to the illogical and irrational coercion that's taking place on the globe right now. So even though it on the surface level, it looks like it's ramping up towards a position where liberties and freedoms and so forth are severely compromised and or taken away, they have to make it look like that, because the only way they can continue with that program and ramp it up and bring in the coercion is to manipulate the mass population into believing that this program is basically it's going to overtake. There's nothing anybody can do about it. But that's not exactly true. It's not true at all. The other thing that is very, very interesting relative to the goddess Eris, as in E-R-I-S. I like to spell that out because it sounds very similar to the, actually I'll just stop share there because I want to, I've got some charts that are confidential as in clients and I don't want to bring them up. I cannot minimize. Why can't I minimize? That doesn't make any sense. There we go. Okay, so let me just get rid of some charts here and then I can share my screen with you guys. Now, what happened to my Eris chart? Okay, let me just find her. I want to show you the discovery chart for Eris, because it's incredibly telling with regards to everything we are seeing. Also lost my full moon chart. Okay, so just bear with me while I just prepare this. It'll only take a minute or so. I have got quite a few charts to delete. Okay, all right, I'll fix that one in a minute. Let me just get you guys on board, share my screen. And let's go to the chart of Eris. So this is the discovery chart of the body Eris, who was originally named Xena, by the way. And I've just recently ordered a book from a particular individual who's been doing extensive research for a couple of decades or something like that. Well, close to that, because Eris was discovered 2005. And so this individual has been doing extensive research. And anyway, when I get that book and just kind of, get a feel for what this person is presenting, I'll share more. But I was looking at the discovery chart of Eris. And so here are the things that you need to note and pay attention to, which are incredibly profound. So first of all, there is Eris at 19 degrees 45 minutes. Okay, this is the actual discovery date. Every single body, asteroid, etc., has a discovery date, right? So as you can see, it's a very recent discovery, and very quickly, when a particular body is discovered, in very simple terms, what that actually means is that the collective is now ready to integrate the energy of this. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy or smooth or anything like that, and certainly not with a body like Eris, which is really the goddess of destruction and chaos, essentially, but chaos with purpose. It's not just craziness and chaos to create hell for people, which it does feel like that at the moment. There is a purpose behind this, a greater purpose for humanity, and so that will eventually come through. But anyway, her discovery chart is very interesting. So there she is there. So what is she doing? She's forming a square to Saturn in Cancer. So Saturn in Cancer, we know, is actually in its detriment. Okay. She's also forming a square to the Sun, and we can put Chiron in there as well. And so this is called a T-square. Okay, and she's at the apex of a T-square. We can take it further and say she's actually conjunct the North Node opposite the South Node. So then inherently what happens is we've got this massive grand cross. Okay, so she depicts the energy of what she's brought in during her discovery, that is signified, first of all, by cardinal signs. Cardinal signs are Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, and Aries. The cardinal signs are always about change. It's a dynamic energy. It's about change. It's about initiation. Things get moving. Things happen. Nothing happens in a soft, slow, flowing way. It happens with a real edge to it. Okay, cardinal energy actually creates change, makes things happen. And there are certain degrees in the zodiac which are critical degrees, and so on and so forth. So she's in Aries. She's in the sign of Aries as well during her discovery. And Aries is a fire sign. It's a masculine sign. It is the sign that's ruled by Mars, which is the planet of conflict, war. So it's a very intense energy that she brings in right from get-go, from 2005, relative to her discovery. That the square to that, just even the T-square is showing us very clearly that the chaos and the destruction and the discord has pretty much got to do with the Cancer Capricorn polarity, right? And Saturn is in its detriment. So Saturn is struggling. It's really struggling to stand strong. That points to the structures, the patriarchal systems that have been in play for 10,000 years, they are crumbling down. Now, Pluto entering Capricorn started that journey for us back in 2008. But everything that comes into the journey, the cycles as they unfold, particularly when they are pointing to the same thing, we need to pay attention to that. We need to see what's happening. So the Saturn in Cancer here is really struggling. It's in a T-square, as I said, and Eris is at the apex of the T-square. So she's basically holding the energy together of the Saturn and the Sun, which is the crumbling of systems, actually. So anyway, there's much more to it than that, but I just wanted to quickly just show you her discovery chart because it's just fascinating to me. She comes in a grand cardinal cross in this massive T-square with Saturn in its detriment. You can't get more clear sort of symbolism around the nature of this energy of Eris as she's come through into the collective consciousness, right? Okay, so let me just bring up the chart of the new moon, and I've lost the chart, so I now need to just recreate it. So just give me a minute and I'll do that for you. So it's basically 16 degrees of Leo. Okay, so it's approximately here. It's there's just a few minutes difference here between the sun and the moon, but this is essentially it. Let me just go to calculated list. Okay. Now let's bring up some tools just to highlight some things again. So there's the new moon in Leo. Okay, there's the sun and the moon together at 16 degrees. The Sabian symbol, I didn't look at the Sabian symbol. I might do that in a moment, but there's quite a bit here to unpack. First of all, we have the square to Uranus. Okay, we have the opposition from Saturn in Aquarius. And so again, very simply put, this is a repeated theme, okay, from the last sort of lunation cycles that we've had, the last couple of lunation cycles we've had. Saturn and Uranus have been a very important player, and that's why things are actually amplifying up, 100% at the moment. And I said in the, Mercury Sun Kazemi aspect that happened a few days ago that, the month of August and certainly the rest of this year, the rest of 2021 is without question going to be extremely intense and extremely amplified. There's a lot of things going on collectively. I don't want to talk about that too much, but in terms of protests and things of that nature, there's a lot going on. There's a particular alignment of things that are going to take place in New York, in USA, right on the new moon. So that's very interesting. So clearly what we have here is the new moon in Leo speaking to Lionsgate, 8th of August. Lionsgate, 8th of August. Rush of light coming through. Remember, the Knight of Swords came through. So this is showing us that we more than ever, we have to be able to have tremendous courage to face the opposition and adversity that's taking place, because it's only going to amplify. And we simply cannot give in to a program that is not for our highest good. We simply cannot, in my opinion. The way through this is to absorb the light that's coming through, because it will protect you, it will empower you, it will align you with your heart center. This Lionsgate is the most important Lionsgate that we are experiencing in our whole lifetime. There'll never be such a powerful Lionsgate, I don't think, as there is right now. There certainly hasn't been. There may be in the future, but let's see. But right now, this is the most important one to date because of what's coming through relative to ascension, upgrade, and not being overwhelmed and taken into the 3D paradigm of chaos, coercion, etc. It's going to take a lot of courage to stand in your heart and your light. Now, people are going to say things like, well, from a practical perspective, I may be left with no choice but to be part of the program. Now, you all know what I mean when I say program. I'm sure you all do, right? It's got to do with the collective narrative program relative to health, and it's got to do with the directions and coercions around that. I don't need to be more specific than that. I'm sure you are all on the same page. So people are going to argue, well, you know, I'm in a position where if I don't follow the program, then I'm at a loss with XYZ. And I completely understand that. And that's going to come down to personal choice. It really is. And I understand it's going to be extremely challenging for a lot of people. But that's a decision that each of us needs to make on our own accord. We need to be able to stand in the truth of it, though, and understand the future consequences. And by making this decision, these are the possible ramifications, which there's a lot of evidence and truth from a scientific level as well, actually being exposed, being seen, leaking out, because there are a lot of whistleblowers, a lot of people that have actually that were involved in these larger organizations that have withdrawn and pulled out in order because they had a conscience and the money wasn't going to buy them over, which it does for most people. So the ones that have a conscience and actually do care about humanity, they've become the whistleblowers, and they're also being demonized as well. So, you know, it's going to be a personal choice, and it's all up to each of us individually. But my message through this new moon in Leo video is simply to try and just step into your utmost courage. You know, we all have the hero, and I'm not talking about hero as in, you know, a heroic sort of expression of arrogance and things of that nature. This is not about arrogance. This is about stepping into your light, into your heart, into the truth of your heart, and having the courage to face the adversity and the opposition that will come for you and to you. It's coming for all of us all the time. And it's going to take tremendous courage to stand face to face with that. But Knight of the Swords told us very clearly that's what we need to do. The Leo energy is talking about that as well. Leo is about the hero. It's about the courage. It's about the heart energy. It's about the light. It's about standing in that more, you know, the Leo energy is, we've always, every time there's a new moon or full moon in Leo, generally we tend to point to, you know, creativity, love affairs, fun, you know, recreational activities, you know, creative pursuits, self-actualization, you know, things like that. That's all still there, of course. That it's not like it's no longer significant, but we have to understand that when there's a new moon in Leo, in the times that we are in at the moment, we have to, you know, apply it to the context of what's happening in the world at the moment. What's happening is that the biggest transition of our entire existence. So we need to go to the absolute essence of Leo's energy. And the essence of Leo's energy is courage and standing in the heart of the light that is within you. The Knight of Swords, he doesn't back down. It's keeping on, keeping on, keeping on, keeping on, keeping on, keeping on. That's what courage is. And courage also means confidence within. We have to have confidence and courage within ourselves. The confidence in the divine power and truth and love of things, the confidence in that, the confidence in the consciousness that actually we come from. It's where we emerged from. You know, if we want to go into biblical realms, we've all been made in the image of God, just to use patriarchal language for a moment. That's there's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's just a one particular way on a higher, more ascended level. It's just simply saying that we are the same as divine source creation to all things. That's where we came from. We're just an expression of that. And there's just this incredible intensified cataclysmic evolution, collective evolution that's going on. And there's always in life, spiritually or otherwise, there's always duality, and so there's always the dark and the light. That's present in everything. And as I said before, the opposition that's so extreme at the moment is so extreme because it knows it has to let go of what it's been doing for about 10,000 years, which is basically control. And control not for the purposes of justice and fairness and equality and peace and love and unity, but rather for gain, oppressing humanity, taking humanity's rights away, level of the ability to be equal and free. There's nothing light about that. So, and Eris being squared by Pluto as well, she has been, the last year or so. That Pluto is in our own individual charts, it is the soul component of our beingness. And transiting Pluto at a collective level is the soul of the collective. The other thing is that Pluto at the moment is it's going retrograde, so it's gone back to 25 degrees. But, in the next couple of years, it's preparing basically to leave the sign of Capricorn, right? And so think about that, because it's been in Capricorn since 2008, okay, which is a fair bit of time. When it ingresses into Aquarius, which is its first entry, I think is early 2023, and then it fully sits into Aquarius by 2024, and it will stay there for 20 years. So that's going to be, again, that's going to be a huge process of evolution moving forward. But we'll talk about that later on. We've still got, I think we need to kind of work with, deal with, be present with what's happening right now and work with that and through that to our best capability by not being blindsided by the program. Now, as Pluto is preparing to leave the sign of Capricorn, see, in evolutionary terms, when a planet is at the final sort of degrees of a particular sign, it's considered to be a really critical zone. It's a real hot spot, right? Because it's the completion of that particular planet in that sign. Okay, so what started in 2008, which everything we're seeing now, little small pockets of that have been slowly manifesting, if you like, or trying to integrate into this 3D reality since 2008, because Pluto in Capricorn essentially means old systems need to die. The old Saturnian control, the patriarchal levels of systems and the paradigm around that has come to its point of evolution in the sense of it needs to die, it needs to finish. And so as Pluto is now working through the last degrees of Capricorn, it's inevitable that things are going to magnify and intensify, because it's literally crushing down these old systems. And the which you can refer to as the dark, or whatever name you want to use, it doesn't matter. It is there, it is happening, it is obvious. So we've got that level, and then we've got the the Saturn Uranus theme going on all year, which is Uranus is reflective of the people actually evolving, individuating. It's speaking to a new way of life, and it will ultimately come to greater justice, fairness, and equality. It will inevitably get to that level, but not until it goes through this passing through the transition. And the passing through means these forces trying to hold on for dear life, because they know that they are being annihilated. When the ego in the individual senses that it's going to be annihilated, the most typical reaction to that is to go to battle, to fight for life or death. And so this is what's happening on a collective level. So this new moon, you can first of all look at where it is in your chart. Okay, let's go back to some basics. Where is 16 degrees of Leo in your chart? That's a new cycle that's beginning there for you relative to your own birth chart. And yes, you can bring in the components of creative journeys or processes or pursuits or goals that you may want to integrate at this point in time, set some intentions around that. That's all fine. You know, that's all still there, as I said before. But I think given the nature of this 3D reality at the moment, that the greater purpose for aligning with the heart center at the moment is to be able to stand in our courage and our truth and our light, no matter what appears from that external level, because it's just going to amplify. And August is going to be, you know, such an intense month, huge. I mean, we just had a full moon in Aquarius, which was also influenced by the Saturn-Uranus energy. We've got a new moon in Leo, which is also combining with the Saturn-Uranus energy. And then we have another full moon at the end of August, okay, which is not necessarily so close to the Saturn and Uranus, not no way near like it is here in this picture you see. In this picture here, it's incredibly close. Saturn is the opposition, Uranus is the people, and so Saturn opposing the new moon is literally opposing every man and woman on earth, if you like. Sun, moon, man, woman. The tension between our desire to stand in our truth, Leo, is being faced off by Saturn, is being oppressed, shut down, and so forth. And Uranus squaring it is just going to highlight the friction, the conflict, the disruption, the chaos that's going to happen, because there's going to be a lot of pushback. And there has been, and there is right now, and there will be more, because too many people are actually awake. There's a lot of people that are very scared, but there's a lot of people that are awake. There's more people awake now than ever in our lifetime. More people are awake. And so those forces that are desperately trying to hang on to what they've been controlling for thousands of years, I don't think they expected such a pushback. I don't think they realized how many people are actually awake on the planet. And it's interesting that all this is taking place whilst we have access to technology to the extent that we do relative to internet, computers, and so forth. And, you know, there is a curse to that as well. It's a blessing and a curse. And the blessing is that we have, you know, instantaneous access to things that otherwise, if we didn't have computers, would either never get to us, we'd never hear about it, or would take weeks and months to reach us for whatever reason that may be. But now we have instant access. Mind you, we know that there's an overload of, you know, censorship that's taking place. But the funny thing about that is that people are still able to share, you know, what they have to share relative to everything that's going on. So it's there. You just need to kind of be at the right place at the right time, sort of thing, to kind of fall into it, you know. And that happens a lot. It certainly happens to me. I tend to fall into so much stuff which gets removed within an hour, or within 2 hours, or within 5 minutes, or within a day, or within a week, whatever it may be. So censorship is, you know, intensifying as well, of course. And even here in Australia, they have put forth, now I don't know if I don't know where this source has come from, but I suspect it really does make sense to me that it would be true. It has been indicated that if people in Australia promote online dates and times and information around protests, they can be fined up to $11,000. I mean, if that doesn't show you just how shit scared these forces are, how desperate they are to hang on to their control, I don't know what will. I mean, it's see, that doesn't scare me. When I see information like that, that doesn't scare me. That actually makes me smile, because it makes me realize just how much they are actually crumbling and how desperate they are. I mean, I can smell desperation everywhere, even everywhere I go, around in the streets here, wherever. There's this desperation which is being, it's just been orchestrated and integrated with basically misdirected information that primarily is coming through coercion and fear. And so we have a choice in whether we want to open up to that and believe that, or whether we want to use our own critical mind and investigate, research, and ask questions and stand in the light of our heart, the truth and light in our heart, because no one, no thing can ever take that away from us. No one. It doesn't matter how chaotic and dark and disruptive and all of that it all appears at the moment. That can never take the light away from you, because you are the light. All of us are. So imagine, if the entire human race actually stood up, imagine the power of that, right? Just imagine the power of that. So those of us that are aware, that can see, that are in tune, in touch, and have the courage to stand in this light, then we need to continue to do it every single moment, every single day, no matter what is appearing, and ride the wave. And that wave is going to, it's going to be bigger than any tsunami we've ever seen on this entire earth plane, ever. It's going to get massive. So some other things about this chart I noticed as well, and this is quite interesting, is that Mercury, which is in Leo for this new moon chart, is forming an inconjunct to Pluto and an inconjunct to Neptune, and that basically becomes a yod. I know there's a few lines there, and you may not be able to get your head around that. A lot of you will, some of you might not. Just know that Neptune and Pluto are actually sextile each other, and they both, see those lines I've drawn right down to Mercury. That line, which is the distance between Neptune to Mercury, Pluto to Mercury, creates what's called a yod. Now, Mercury is at the apex of the yod, and I found this really interesting. Helena Blavatsky, who's the main authority in esoteric teachings, esoteric astrology and esoteric teachings, she actually had a yod with Mercury at the apex. And there's many things to be said about a yod with Mercury at the apex, but one of the things is masterful communicator and or social enlightener. So without going into the rest of what's said about Mercury at the apex of a yod, because that's a whole other sort of level, if you like, the main thing that we can take away from this relative to the new moon is that there is, because yods are said to speak to and point to fated forks in the road, if you like, turning of events, very specific events or situations or things being activated, right, at a particular time. And so this yod is very significant relative to this new moon, because it's there with the new moon, and it is Mercury at the apex, and it's in Leo, so, and it's in a yod with Pluto. So basically it's pointing us to being able to, again, stand in our heart center with logos logic, logos is a Greek word for logic, which is Mercury. So standing in our own logic, in the light of our own logic, we must stand in that now more than ever. And this Yod is speaking to that as well, because if we can do that, we can be the social enlightener. We can add light to other people's logos, word, mind. So that's another feature that's coming through. What else do we have? Yes, this is a very important thing as well. Let me just clear those lines so that I can make it a bit more clearer again for you. So there's Saturn, right? And we've already said that, it's opposite the full moon, okay? And that's going to be it's going to be more lockdowns, more restrictions, more coercion, more mandatory things, and so forth. That's what this new moon on the 3D level is basically essentially speaking to. What are the potential outcomes? Okay. But here's the interesting thing: transiting Saturn is retrograde. When a planet is retrograde, it is the most powerful time to integrate that energy within you, within your consciousness, within your soul's evolution. That's the most powerful time to it's the energy turns within. Okay, so it's the most powerful time for integration. Integration is what assists our entire path of evolution. Integration, you could say, is like it's like a little level of awakening that's just sort of that's just happening over your whole lifespan, basically. Because when you become conscious and aware of something, you work through something, you integrate it. Once integration is there, then there's no projection, you see, because you've integrated it. So if something is integrated inside you, you don't need to project it out there to experience it from out there. It's integrated. So it resides within holistically. So Saturn being retrograde, this is where I think there's more strength to the people in this way, because it's opposite the new moon. It's actually saying that the level of opposition and all that stuff that goes on with that, we have an opportunity here to actually step into our own authority. Because at the moment, the whole world seems to feel and think that these governments and systems are dictating what everybody should or should not do on every single level, because that's the program that they are highlighting. That's what they want everybody to believe. But the truth is that we are our own authority, actually, but we need to stand in that, integrate that by actually using our critical mind and critical reasoning skills and making decisions for ourselves to our best capability through investigation, inquiry, research. And Saturn retrograde enables us to do that, to step into our own authority. And that just that can go back to the comment I made before, where I said, if everybody stood in their heart center and stood up together, that would mean that everybody has integrated Saturn inside them. And that would be end of the game. That game, that program, that paradigm, that 3D level of things, game over. So imagine if every individual actually just for a moment just stopped to reflect on that. Imagine the power. So even though that's likely not to happen, we can't lose faith or sight of the bigger picture and of our role of what we need to do with our own level of understanding and awareness. And again, in Leo, it's really all about aligning with your heart and the truth, and nothing can No darkness can take that away. This new moon is happening at the Lionsgate portal, the exact date of that. That's not a coincidence. And it's not a coincidence that it's all lining up with the amplification of things that are taking place on the globe right now. I mean, it can be sometimes difficult to perceive or imagine, because it requires a lot of inner reflection and processing and integration, because you can't see it out there. Out there, all we are seeing is the denseness of the Saturn 3D paradigm. That's all we're going to see. The things that I'm talking about, and many others are talking about, we're not going to see it out there right now. But, I put a quote up by Helena Blavatsky actually today, and it's so poignant for what I'm actually discussing right now. And the quote was, "The chief difficulty which prevents men of science from believing in divine as well as in nature spirits is their materialism." And so, to break that down, my interpretation of that would be, she's basically saying that the material plane has overtaken, if you like, humanity's connection to source and light and truth and nature. It's completely overtaken it. And that's why we're in the crisis that we're in, actually, because the balance needs to come back. Remember, the Venus star point, who's been in Scorpio for the last 100 years or something like that, is transitioning into Libra in a couple of years' time, an air sign which corresponds to balance. Now, that's not a coincidence that the Venus star point on that wheel, after 100 years of being in Scorpio, which is all the control, power, abuse, dark elements of what's happening on the 3D plane, her transition into Libra is about bringing in justice and fairness and equality. So she's another level of influence, energy, frequency, integration that's coming in. So that there will be a lot of positive things. There will be a lot more fairness, equality, and justice. But we need to hang tight. We need to hang on. We really need to hang on. We can't just give up or give in. There's been no greater time to step into your courage than the time that we are facing right now. And so let me just finish this quote. Then she says, "The universe is worked and guided from within outwards. The whole order of nature evinces a progressive march towards a higher life. Life, same thing." So I love that quote because it's so true for the times that we are facing at the moment as well. Because traditional science, in whatever spectrum or field that may be pointing to, traditional science is ruled by Saturn, and Saturn rules boundaries, walls and restrictions and limitations and control and fear and oppression and suppression and depression. So when we stay within the consciousness of Saturn, we live in that 3D paradigm and reality that is extremely limiting. And whilst many people have been living that way for thousands of years, really, the evolution of the planet, of the planets themselves, have reached a point where we can no longer stay with the Saturnian level of consciousness. We must evolve beyond that. It's as simple as that, although it's not simple. So those are my reflections. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts as well. Please feel free to share and ask any questions if you would like to. And let me see if there was anything else that I needed to just wrap this up. Just another interesting thing that I kind of noted as well is that the month of August, which is number 8, the 8th month in the 12-month calendar, number 8 is a Scorpio number. So here we have a new moon on the 8th of the 8th, the Lion's Gate, which is again highlighting heart center, being aligned with your heart so that you can actually see the freaking truth. And it's August 8 month, 8 is Scorpio energy. So it is about shedding, purging a lot of old material, letting go of the 3D reality and paradigm that we've been so attached to for such a long time through conditioning, through thousands of years of conditioning, actually. So if we want to evolve and we want to embrace our ascension, we need to align ourselves with what invites us to the truth in our heart. We can't expect it to just come crashing down from the sky and just hit us like a light, like have a comet's light hit us on the head and suddenly we're awake. We need to take responsibility for our own awakening. Saturn retrograde enables us to do that as well with this new moon in Leo. So I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to talk about, this is just magnificent, actually. This is just going to be a whole intense layer that I'm going to speak about relative to the goddess Persephone, who's just recently ingressed into the sign of Gemini, and goddess Ceres recently ingressed into the sign of Gemini. Now, Ceres is the mother of Persephone, and the fact that they are both going to line up together, and by the time Persephone finishes her journey in Gemini, her final aspect is going to be an inconjunct to Pluto, and Pluto is the other archetypal significator in the story of Persephone. And so I'll talk about all that soon, because this is a journey that's going to take us through till May 2022. And I think the presence of these goddesses and the lining up that's going on, and Black Moon Lilith as well, because Black Moon Lilith is in and out of Gemini this year as well. So Persephone and Ceres are lining up with Black Moon Lilith. So the goddesses are incredibly pronounced at the moment, which is the divine feminine, which is Mother Earth, Gaia, which is enabling us to align with natural law. Do you think that natural law would ever include something like a particular liquid being coerced by man-made production and threatened towards people that if you don't take this, then you've lost this, you've lost that, you've lost that? What does that tell you? Seriously, logically, what does that tell you? And then let's go back into natural law, Mother Earth and Gaia. Our body is the greatest healer. Our body has the capacity to heal itself in ways that can never be explained on a rational level. This is a magnificent piece of equipment that we've been given. And natural law and natural order doesn't have anything to do with coercion, manipulation, lies, misdirected information, mandatory XYZ. Natural law, Mother Earth, Gaia, has nothing to do with that. That is all man-made. You just need to think about it logically. All right. I'm out of here. I'll see you guys very soon with more. Stay strong, stay courageous. Really just stay courageous. Stay that heart center, the magnetic field around the heart center, we can't see it, but the vibration is, words cannot describe the power of that. Remember that. Remember the frequency and the power of the heart, the magnetic field of the heart. It's a lot more powerful than lies, deception, coercion, mandation, manipulation, propaganda, programs. It'll always be more powerful than those things, always. We just need to remember that. And now we're being called to remember that more than ever in our entire existence. Much love and see you soon, guys. Love you all. Thanks.